this analogy is overused and a bit of a sensitive topic for people, but it gets my point across perfectly. There are times where fans of franchises are a lot like battered housewives. Even when the franchise does something completely despicable and deplorable and ruins the aspects about itself that drew us to it in the first place, we keep coming back, constantly uttering to ourselves, maybe this time it won't be bad, maybe this time it won't suck. I mean, we've seen it with Highlander, we've seen it with Star Wars, we've seen it with Silent Hill, and we've seen it with Sonic the Hedgehog, and we've seen it with the X-Men movie franchise, although that's probably how some people are feeling with the way the characters have been handled in the comics as of late. Now, with an intro like that, you're probably expecting me to say that this film is bad. That isn't the case. However, while this film is a step above, say, X-Men Origins Wolverine or X3 The Last Stand, it's not without some of its problems, and some of the problems pretty much stem from how Bryan Singer has handled the franchise from the very beginning. The first thing that I have to say about the film is that you may want to heed Bryan Singer's advice and ignore the discrepancies, because constantly kind of keeping them in mind and pointing them out as you see them is liable to cause headaches amongst the more steely-eyed fans. If there is a continuity you want this to fit into, then it's probably best to see this more as a sequel to X-Men First Class than as a continuation of the other films in the series, because it's the connections to First Class that form the very sturdy backbone of Days of Future Past. By that I mean the movie, not the comic storyline that this is based on. I just want to make that clear in case the purists decide to try to jump down my throat. The first technical issue I noticed with the film is that some of the effects for the mutant powers seemed a tad dated. Now, it's not with like the major ones like Wolverine, Mystique, Magneto, but rather the ones that actually have forms like Bobby Drake and Colossus. They looked dated. They looked like the kind of effects that would have been passable in the X-Men films of the early 2000s, as opposed to the special effects spectacles of today. And it just felt like they were kind of using that type of effect more out of a sense of kind of loyalty, out of tradition, instead of really pushing things forward. It just didn't look that good in the case of Colossus and Iceman, because it just lacked that extra polish that would have made the material believable. And again, this is partially coming from the studying I've done into visual effects and kind of how even when you're missing one key thing, an effect can be pretty much ruined if it doesn't sell well. And really, this isn't as bad as, say, the claw effects in X-Men Origins Wolverine, but there's definitely that sense of artificiality that you were able to pick up on it. The second issue I had with the film was how desperate it was to cram a lot of notable characters into the film for the sake of fan service. It's not as bad in this film as it was in, say, X2, but it definitely came across as desperate. And part of what makes it kind of worse, if I couldn't really think of a better term, but part of what makes it bad is that a lot of the characters that we saw from the beginning of First Class are effectively killed off screen. I mean, yeah, I understand they're trying to establish the character motivations and why everybody's doing what they're doing, but it could have been handled a little bit better. It's kind of the whole case of show, don't tell sort of thing. And that's kind of really what it comes back to, is that rather than just showing some brief like slides and just having it set through hearsay, they could have really shown it a little bit better, like actually visually communicated a little better. As for the things I liked in the film, personally I think the film really gets going once Logan is sent into the past. And the reason why is that the cast of characters is greatly reduced, and as such we have a lot more breathing room, a lot more room for the characters to grow and to play off of each other, and just allowing for some substantial character development. I also liked how the stakes in this film were also very clear. I mean, yeah, they were clear in past films, but here they had a clear goal. There was a lot of build-up, but the payoff was actually payoff. It was actually worth following the story to the very end. All in all, while there are some problems with the film, this is definitely a step in the right direction, as they're really trying to get back to basics and get back to what made the first two films in the franchise work. And it's also refreshing to see them actually go about telling a good story in the spirit of the comics, instead of expecting fan service to carry the entire film. Not to mention that they've also effectively retconned the bad films out of the canon in one fell swoop, hopefully allowing for much better installments in the future, so hooray for that. All that said, I give X-Men Days of Future Past a 4 out of 5. So that's it for this episode of Romney's Reviews. As for next week, I don't really have anything on deck. I mean, I have to check what releases are coming out, and I'm still in the process of job hunting, so all I can say is, well, hopefully I'll be reviewing something next week. If not, I may do kind of a retro review, much like when I looked at the Dragon Ball films a couple summers ago. I don't think it was last summer. It might have been. It was the summer Avengers came out where I did that, so I might do something like that. So, yeah. All I can say is, I'll see you all next time.